Not up here, Grizzly, not yet. Testing. A red light or a green light has a red light. Starting again. When I was asked to introduce Robin, I had to think frantically for 10 seconds to think of what I could say in about a minute, minute 30 that wouldn't take up too much of her time, because there's a lot to say about Robin. First and foremost, she is the most important person in my life. That we can edit out of the tape, but I wanted you to know that. Second, she saved my life, which is why I'm here this morning and why you're here, because a lot of New Age practitioners, a lot of people dealing in alternative medicine talk a great game. I happen to know from firsthand experience that Robin walks a great game. I've seen her do incredible things where everybody else was stumped. And so what I want you to do this morning, just because I'm living proof, is to listen very carefully. And when she gets to the end where she has some prescriptions for things you should do, really listen very carefully, because Robin is one of the few that I know in the health field that actually makes it work. She has a diplomat in homeopathy. She has a marvelous background in all kinds of alternative healing techniques. As I said a moment ago, I've seen her modalities actually work in the field, as it were, where professionals, people with 15 degrees, threw up their hands and said, there's nothing we can do. She has actually made a remarkable difference. And if it's worth anything, I'm standing up here living proof that 7 years ago, the heart attack that almost killed me, obviously not, and it was because of Robin's care. So with that, it is with great pleasure, or as they say when they introduce the president, a high honor and a distinct privilege to introduce to you Dr. Robin Falkov.
Thank you. How does one follow that? That's quite an intro. Well, I thank you all for coming. I'm happy to see you all here, and I will try to contain my excitement. The research that I've been doing for this presentation has just been phenomenal. There's so much that I want to share with you guys so that you can go and share it, so that people will have hope and know that there are choices, that there are options, there are things that they could do, and it's all there. This is research that was done by NASA and DARPA, following up with the Medical College at Wisconsin. This is ongoing, started first in the veterinary field, but I'm getting ahead of myself. What I'd like to give you a foundation with is the understanding of the connectedness of the different modalities that I will be talking about. I'm talking about, my big new excitement is light therapy. What you're looking at is the other side of LED pads. There are 90 pads on here, and they alternate with visible and the infrared that you don't see. So you see, you know, a lit row and an alternating row. The important thing with this equipment is that it works so dramatically. And if there's someone in the audience that has any pain right now, pulled muscle, ache or something, you're welcome to let me set you up and we can do a little test. And after 15 minutes, you can tell everyone how you feel. Or is everybody fine? I've got a great audience. Okay.
No, we got a volunteer here.
You do? We do? Ah, okay. Then let me turn this off and set you up. Well, give me a little, information. What happened?
Oh, it's a chronic thing. I don't know quite what it is. It's mimicking infection. It's mimicking MS. It's mimicking arthritis. But the doctors just say take some aspirin, and that's about it. Because they can't find anything. But I continue to limp, and it affects the mind. So.
And your brief.
It's been going on for 2 years. No one can find it. No one can give me anything in the medical community.
And what happened preceding?
Oh, it was, well, my wife died, and I just sort of went to hell. And I never sort of got over it. And I just started aching all over. And so that's what happened.
Well, what you're describing is not uncommon to have the, yeah. No, it doesn't get you over it. The point being, this can help with the physical aspect. You might want to find someone that does, there's different types of neuro clearing. Yeah, yeah, I will be. And the emotional release techniques can help you clear it. They will work on you where you're having the problem, and then also physically, because you want a combination when it's tied in like that. So, okay, what I need to know, the only caveat with this is if there's a malignancy. What this technology does, it stimulates cellular metabolism, increases the function sometimes by 400%. So inside your cells you have, I don't know how much everyone is familiar with basic cellular structure. You have your cell, and inside there are different little organelles, and your mitochondria are the energy factories inside the cell. So the mitochondria produce adenosine triphosphate. That's what's released to the body for energy. This amps up production rate. So if someone had cancer, you would not want to use this because you don't want to stimulate a tumor. So if there's,
No tumors.
no malignancy that we have to be concerned with. Okay, then which ankle? Thank you, honey. And I just have to cover it.
Section.
It's your hip.
Yeah. Sort of.
Okay, it's got to be next to the skin. So we're going to be challenged. So if it's from the hip going down, is it like a sciatica?
No.
But you're pointing, I have to look at what you're showing me,
Yeah,
and
well,
not what you're saying.
It's sort of the hip, sort of feels like arthritis, not sciatica. But then
It radiates
sort of
inward,
wraps-
which would
wraps
not
around
be.
this way and down, wraps around the knee here, and actually right to the shin.
Okay.
It seems to be in this sort of curvature, sort of like wrapped around this way. So it's affecting the joint and the nerve conduction, I guess, through the muscles. The muscles are weak.
Trying to think how we can slide it
It
in.
ends up with a focal pain here sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Focal pain on the shin.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, and we'll do it, it's going to beep. It beeps every 5 seconds. Because this is a chronic condition for 2 years, we're going to use the combination therapy. I'm getting ahead of my presentation, but I've done a lot of research with the different machines, and this one has 7 settings, and it also has a combination setting that there are dramatic dental studies going on nationwide for cavitations. People have had root canals. After extractions, when you have inflammation, that's this continuous, prod to the body to keep you at a low level of immune function. And this will work wonders. I don't want to sound too pie in the sky here, but it's just amazing what the reports have shown. So we'll do the NICO setting because that's going to treat something chronic. It'll treat tendons, it will treat muscles, it will treat lymph movement and circulation. Yeah, just from the heat of the light. Okay, yeah. Just from the heat of it, you know, it stimulates blood flow, which is important. You have to be creative. Open your waist and just try to slide it into place.
Okay, well then.
The beauty of this, you can curve it. Each piece is individually soldered with a special patented technique. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with electronic equipment, but if this were standard, it would be broken. So. Now this is very high tech, what I'm going to do right now.
Actually, Saran Wrap was developed with the space program, so it is high tech.
Well, the very interesting tie-in for both of us is that here I'm finding this and I'm saying, Richard, this is all NASA research. They've covered this up.
Surprise, surprise.
Okay.
Just stand
So,
over a little here.
I will stand here and you can have some space to slide it where you're going to slide it. And this is this little bitty thing that travels with us everywhere. We don't leave it behind. Turn it on. And the settings to Nico, which is the combination. And I'll start it.
Okay, beat me up, Scotty.
Okay.
I'm in position here, ready to launch.
Okay, thank you.
I got it wrapped around from the hip joint to over the top of the thigh here.
Okay, that's good, as long as it's in contact.
Right.
Okay, so you've got 30 minutes with that, and we'll...
All right, super.
Okay. Right, that's what... So back to where I was starting for all of you, the connectedness of light therapy technique with LEDs and with homeopathy, which is an energy medicine, stimulating your immune function on a cellular level. Oh, thank you. And acupuncture with your little needles that some people compare to antenna sticking out of the body to direct energy and capture those frequencies and move through the pathways. And then strangely enough, these patches by LifeWave. And someone that I respected very much told me about the LifeWave patches. That was Len Horowitz. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he's a brilliant, brilliant researcher. And he came strong that I signed up for it. And I don't like multi-level marketing. I'm not a salesperson. And I'm terribly frustrated because these work. With these, I've been able to work with patients in other parts of the country, and people laugh and they say, you're an acupuncture physician. How are you going to give someone an acupuncture treatment, you know, if they're in Maine? The patches are placed on acupuncture points, and they work. I had a fibromyalgia patient who post office. She called me the first day she was wearing them, and she said, I can't believe it. I don't have pain. How can that work so quickly? And it can, and it does. And I've made a point out of telling those who want, I mean, if you just want to use it for yourself and for your friends and family and your pets, it's fine. I help out everyone that's using them by telling them where to place the patches. And I knows about them. And I'll read you something, and I normally would not want to read something, but Richard wasn't very interested in hearing it. I had someone else that I tried to share it with. They weren't very interested, so I'm hoping you guys will be, because I find it absolutely phenomenal how you can bridge Chinese medicine, homeopathy, and what NASA is calling new technology with LEDs, which was around end of the 1800s. They started using light therapy for treating eczema, psoriasis, different skin conditions. No, they weren't LEDs. They were using light therapy, but not LEDs. Right, right. I will give a history on the LEDs. We have the father of LEDs in one of the slides that you guys can even see. But the common area here that these all share with energy medicine is just, as it came together more and more, it was just very exciting for me. And there are certain basics, and light and energy is just, it's just that. It's there. It exists. You see it. We share it. And if you can harness, use, incorporate in your life all these different aspects, it's amazing. How many of you are familiar with Gabriel Cousens? Gabriel Cousens is a medical doctor. He has several retreats, and his focus is about raw food diets. Raw food diets, if anyone has a loved one that's, that has a serious health condition, this is a miracle. What you are having in raw food is the living energy of your plants, of your fruit, and this has been measured. Bio-photon levels. Your cells communicate with photons, these little light particles. Light is energy, and you have that common area that these all share. So that's very exciting. So, as I'm jumping all over the place, is it getting warm a little bit?
Just like it.
Okay, good.
Not uncomfortable. It's nice, actually.
Yeah, it won't be uncomfortable. Good. Okay. We've got our first 5 minutes. Now, the original research, as I was saying, started at the end of the 1800s. And then there was a lot of coverage about, wow, racehorses are being healed using light therapy, not LEDs. They weren't around then, back in the 1930s. That was in 1962 when you had Professor Holniak, if I didn't just butcher his name, develop that. So what happened with the racehorses healing made the owners stop and think, if it's good enough for my horse, maybe I should try this. And that's the kickoff. And lo and behold, it only took about 50 years for NASA to start doing their research. So straight from the horse's mouth. Sorry. Okay, now let me change over. And those are some of the organizations that are doing this technology. And Wired magazine has covered a lot of this information. We also, USA Today had a big article last weekend about LED technology. So little by little, this is getting out there. This is a picture of Lico, a dolphin. And for Lico, he had damaged his fin. And as you can read there, they were using the latest advances in human regenerative to help restore the damage to his fin. And the latest advances that they used were LED technology. And I'm happy to say that this dolphin has healed, and his fin is fine. Everything regenerated. If anyone is interested, there's a report up here that you can look at afterwards to see it in more detail. There were many studies done with thermal imagery showing the healing progression. So it's not, well, maybe it was something else and we're not sure it was a coincidence. This is very well defined that you can document how this process took place. Okay. This is an image of a different type of machine. These are the machines that NASA was using for the astronauts. When in space, the effects of low gravity slow down healing. So if there is any type of injury while they're up at the space shuttle or while they're doing any of their missions, this has been used with dramatic results. As I said, it can stimulate the cellular energetics to speed up healing by 400%. That's pretty dramatic. And when you have a small space and you can't have a lot of equipment there, this technology works wonders. And there's more information on that up here if anyone would like to read more about it. I have some of the proposals that NASA has put out for more funding to study the effects of light technology. They are using what is called photodynamic therapy for treating cancerous tumors. You have different medications that will respond to light. And using those medications, injecting them directly into a tumor, and then having the LEDs, you can have a fiber optic cable that can go into the area as well. And they've had dramatic clearing of cancerous tumors by that combination. The light will activate the medication to function much more effectively. So it's not just your alternative area, it's combined in your traditional Western medicine. The crime is that people don't know that these options exist. And it takes a lot of searching on your part. And that's really the sad thing, because we have a culture where everyone has invested themselves in the belief that the authorities know best. I'm going to my doctor, I'm paying my doctor, and he will take care of me, and I can just, follow his directions unquestioningly. That's your first mistake. You have got to protect yourself, your family, your pets, all of your loved ones, and just learn the basics, learn the tools. That's what I've lectured about in the past, how you can be more effective. And you use the internet? So you've got Google. I mean, what did we do before we had this external brain? It's just absolutely phenomenal. Learn how to look things up. Go to the medical areas, use a medical dictionary. There are online medical dictionaries, and you'd be surprised how quickly you can go through the terminology and get an understanding of what there is that you have to pay attention to. Because if paying attention and you're not reporting back to your healthcare practitioner, how are they going to help you? Keeping a diary is one of the very basic things that's incredibly important, because you're charting your progress and you're sharing that information. You want to see when a condition began, what was going on at the time, how you feel, what makes it better and what makes it worse. Those are simple little basics that anybody can do. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to even go see anybody. You can do that on your own and get all your information together. And when you do go see your healthcare practitioner, you have data that they have to pay attention to. And it's your job to make sure that they pay attention. Okay. You've got to be active. And you've got to question and follow through. If you've got something urgent, sure.
It was kind of related. I had a friend that just was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and that was he's about to go through radiation, I think, either this week or he just did the other day. So I was really curious if the LED technology applies to the cranium section.
Okay, so you're asking if LED technology can be used for brain tumors? Yes, and I've got studies right up here that you're welcome to read. If any of you have questions, you can contact me, and I can send you the information by email for the studies that I have. The important thing is that this information gets out, so your friend can be helped and everyone else is.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, it's dramatic. Okay, this gentleman is Nick Holonyak, Jr., and he is the discoverer and award winner for his research in the use of light-emitting diodes in 1962. And obviously there were some recent awards going on for him. And we have him to thank for this amazing technology. And his bio is incredible, the work and research that he's done, and you have to accept my apology for not being able to load this on the slide for you all to read. But as I said, I will be happy to share the information with you and send it to you. But this is a very important gentleman. Now, what I was talking about earlier that I found very exciting with light therapy is research about frequency fields on a cellular level. And as I said, that's common to homeopathy, Chinese medicine, the light therapy, and the patches. Such simple little tools, and they're cheap except for the patches. That's the problem with the multi-level marketing. But cheap technology that works. That's why you don't hear about it also, because it's not self-perpetuating. You're going to get better. We're not going to keep you coming back and coming back. I'd say my biggest frustration is patients not telling me how they've progressed. And when I've called and asked, they said, well, I'm fine. Wait, what is there to tell you? You know, I was like, that's what I want to hear. You know, the whole thing is compiling all this information and hearing the good news. So yes, feedback. Clear feedbacks. You know, really pay attention to how it's making you feel. Okay, so with this information, and if I can read this clearly, one of the exciting paragraphs here, and I don't know, we can clarify what might be a little bit too technical in this, but this, you know, another very important person in the work of light therapy is Fritz Albert Popp, the PhD Nobel Prize winner in physics, who did all this groundbreaking work about photon energy. And he's a German biophysicist, and he investigated the relationship between coherence and bio-photon energy in our cells. Popp used highly sensitive light measuring equipment to monitor the light emitted by living cells. He was also able to confirm that living cells emit small bursts of light. He determined that cells do not just radiate light, they absorb it. In fact, the storage in relation to the quality of the cell is very important and affected by so many other influences. So therefore, a healthy cell will store light the longest, while an unhealthy cell will give off the light in a much shorter time. He also discovered that the dying process of a cell is identical to that of a star. As above, so below. Shortly before its death, it will change into a supernova, whereby its radiation increases 1,000-fold. He further discovered that a healthy cell radiates coherent light, while a diseased cell radiates chaotic light. According to Popp, every cell in our body receives coherent light, stores coherent light, and emits coherent light. This basic submolecular component of our body is made up of particles of light called bio-photons. These bio-photons traveling at the speed of light make up the electromagnetic frequency patterns that are found in every living organism. See, I have a lady that knows all this material. Yeah. Yeah. This matrix or field of frequency oscillations or resonance specificity provides an energetic switchboarding behind every cellular function, including DNA and RNA messengering. You know, they carry the messages through your body from your genetic code that's passed on from your family, from their continuously changing data processing day by day, exposure by exposure. So it's not hopeless. You're constantly changing. You can constantly affect your body and heal. Cell membranes scan and convert signals into electromagnetic events as proteins within the cell's bilayer change their shape to the vibrations of specific resonant frequencies. Now, how many of you are familiar with Royal Raymond Rife and his technology? Yeah. It's the frequencies, the resonance, the matching up of these patterns, the alignments of these patterns. We've got someone real big on other alignments. But it's a common denominator. You know, we share it as living beings. And, you know, these people get persecuted, as Royal Raymond Rife did, as, who's the French researcher who was, they bought off his family, the one who had the incredible healing technologies? Yeah, the one that Priori, the Priori method and technique, yes. There are a lot of these stories, and what is the best way to discredit somebody? Ridicule them, make it a joke. You know, I mean, this guy's a laughing stock, so you don't put any credence in anything that's said. Back to this. Okay, Torgi, I'll let you bring up torsion afterwards. Okay. Okay, so back to our... Our cells. Every biochemical reaction is preceded by an electromagnetic signal. So you've got your trigger, you've got your reaction. Cells communicate both electromagnetically and chemically and create biochemical pathways that interconnect with all the functions of the body. Now, the other very interesting thing, so I'm not going to be standing here and reading to you, is one other little short concept in here where they describe that we all think of DNA as deoxyribonucleic acid. So we think of it as an acid. It's actually a salt. And as a salt, it is a wonderful conductor. And this ties in on so many levels, from the Keys of Enoch and J.J. Hurtak's work, and down to David Schmidt, who developed these patches and claims that you have these basic proteins in the patch, and there's a little antenna that interacts with the field of the body, with homeopathy and resonant frequencies, with Royal Raymond Rife and Rife technology with resonant frequencies, and the light machines using LED technology and the frequencies that have been determined by Dr. Paul Nogier, who is a French physician, acupuncture physician, and he did groundbreaking work in auricular acupuncture. And he also led the ranges for the best frequencies for treating different tissue types. And those are broken down into 7 different areas, as that machine has the 7 different functions. So there's a whole lot of research that needs to be put in an understandable format and pulled together so that everyone can understand it and everyone can have access to it. So this is going to be a big job for me to undertake and get the basics up on my website, because I really want to see this information get out there. So I'm relying on you guys also to get this information out there. Now, have any of you worked with homeopathy? Okay. And your experiences? Yeah. I mean, this is something that ties in on many different levels with the memory being in the water. That's one of our claims in homeopathy. And we have Masaru Emoto talking about the memory in the water. We have the water crystals that are shown to be affected by simple words that are placed over the water by your thought patterns. So it's not woo-woo anymore. It's been shown, it's been defined, it's been established. You can't write it off as any kind of quackery. And yeah, fortunately, there's some interesting media out there about Dr. Stephen Barrett of Quackwatch, which is more, I guess, the websites which critique his so-called work. He's more, you know, of what he's claiming as quackery. His denigration of much out there is, I guess, a symptom of the fear of an established form of medicine that is really being shaken at its foundations now. You have a population that is spending their discretionary funds on alternative health care. They're not going and spending it on Western medicine. So you have Quackwatch that has been discredited from his trial testimonies, which is a good sign. For those of you that follow that. So pay attention carefully to all sides of the story. Just because you have a licensed practitioner that's supposedly credentialed, it doesn't mean that they don't have an agenda out there. Okay. Familiar with acupuncture? Have you had acupuncture treatments? Okay.
Didn't do it.
With all therapies and with everything, you have to find the right practitioner. You can't just stop with one. You know, I've had the same experience myself in many different areas. It's searching for someone that you, first of all, you have to be able to work with them. And if you have someone with the medical deity complex, that they are the God who is deigning to work with you, that's not someone that you want to see. And I know how frustrating that is with HMOs. You don't have the freedom of choice. But you know why that exists? Because you all let it exist. And, you know, the encouraging thing with our country now is that with this last election, people actually got out and voted. And there was a change. Now, if you're happy with the change or not happy with it, be happy with the fact that people cared enough, that they stopped feeling disempowered, and that they got out there and voted. Because it has to all start with each and every one of us to make a difference. So what you can do, complain. Complain to your HMO. Complain to your doctor. You know, nobody wants to be nagged and hear that. And if enough people do that, then a change will take place. Okay. Now we'll see what's left of my very limited slides. So we see that the speeding up of wound healing, which we were discussing before, is critically important when you have a space mission. And the image of that machine with the arm in front of it. So. And that's that. Just bear with me so I can get some of this other stuff up here. Here's some more information on Professor Holonyak. And as I said, for those of you that are interested in reading about it, the papers are up here. He's quite interesting, his background. I mean, he was Slavic, the son of Slavic immigrants. He got his degree in 1950. And what I found very interesting, there's a whole group of very fertile minds from that point in time. You had all the research at Bell Labs. There was a gentleman that I knew in Florida who was doing work in light healing and color healing. People thought he was a quack, and unfortunately, he was around 82 and not having full mental faculties. And there are people who are continuing his work, but from that period, it seems that there was so much, the seeds of so much, that got so strongly suppressed. 1945. And, 19.5. Okay, your resonant. Huh. Okay, for those of you who are familiar with Richard's work. So go back and read things. If go back even and read a dictionary from 100 years ago, you'll be astonished by what we have as common usage, how it has become distorted, how our language has just been brutalized. Gosh, it almost makes you think somebody has an agenda. And for those of you with children, you might want to read some of the books, actually. It's not just research, by John Gatto. He's a teacher that talks about that agenda with educators, how they are taught that your children need to conform. We're not raising individuals, we are raising members of society. We don't want them to stand out, we want them to be able to follow direction, be part of the team. So, be an individual. You know, then we can make differences. How are you feeling over there?
I mean, nice and warm. I haven't
Okay.
climbed the stairs yet.
Okay. Okay.
It doesn't hurt till I do that, for example, go up downstairs, then grabs me.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to get back in touch with me tomorrow and let me know how you feel.
Yeah, I got your card.
Okay.
I'll be here around.
Yeah, we'll be here, so
Okay, good.
I'd like some feedback.
Yeah,
Okay.
oh, definitely.
Okay, what can happen with any healing modality when you have an area that's chronic, and 2 years is a chronic condition, your mind and body adjust and compensate by turning off that input from the area to your mind, so you're not constantly dealing with, oh, this hurts, and you might become more aware of the sensation of discomfort initially, but that fades. And the reason is the increased circulation and the increased healing that's taking place. So it's like, I'm here, pay attention to me, there's a change taking place. So that's the worst that could happen, and that just dissipates. Good, good. Okay. Let me see. The other areas, I brought little things for you all to look at. There's a lot of essential oil therapies. There's so many things that for people to think they don't have a choice it's criminal, because there are so many options. What you have to do is explore these options. Just if you do a basic search in Google, you will have all these things to check off and go through and think, essential oils, that kind of stuff is crazy. Move on to homeopathy. Move on to Chinese medicine. Move on to light therapy. Move on to, the different neuro-release techniques. Yes?
I have a question for you. It seems like Germany and Russia are producing some very interesting devices that we're not seeing here, as far as things like the LED machines and different frequency generators. Have you done any research in that area?
Yes, I have research on some of the Russian technology. They've come up with a silicon LED able to be pressed close to an open burn wound, and the healing is dramatic. You have patients that had to be managed in special care units because of the severity of their burns, and they can be in a regular hospital setting. They can go home with this equipment, and the healing is just speeded up so dramatically.
Well, obviously There's a discussion about how our FDA is kind of holding back some of these machines because they our pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah.
And so a lot of vets are able to get the equipment for animal use. Right?
Yes, and you can look at the body of research about the LED technology, and this is how I found it. We have a bull mastiff female, and she had elevated liver enzymes, and I am 90.
Tell them what the vet said. Come on.
Okay, well, but I've heard it before with other people and other pets.
We had like a month, maybe 6 weeks.
Well, they told me she was in end-stage liver disease, and I said, okay. I said, liver disease is my specialty. That's great. You know, liver disease I'll take any time. And because, and in all fairness, they are limited by their training. There's not a lot of malice out there. Some you will encounter, but they are limited by their training, and some of your doctors are trying, you know, the best that they can within their framework of what they've been taught is how things work. You know, you've got to look outside the box, because if you're only looking at how things work, you're never going to see something new. You know, it comes along and you're limited, and, well, life is only what we look like, so anything else, you know, I'm hallucinating. It can't be real. But the Russians, the Germans have been phenomenal. The Russians with their woo-woo, supposedly psychic research, what they've established and documented, and what has been undercover here with mind control. You know, listen to Dr. Nick Begich if you want to hear the latest about that. And it's just such shocking information.
Yes, along comment about the Russians. Have you heard of Dr. Irina and the Skinar technologies?
Yeah.
They're little machines, something like that, but it could be very related. But laser light? Yeah, I just wondered if you had heard of her.
Possibly. There's a difference with the laser technology and the LED. The laser is not as effective as the LED. It's great for a surgical procedure because it will also cauterize the incision. The LED has better penetration. It's much more effective, which is why you're not hearing about it, you know.
A lot of those were developed with the Russian space program.
Yes.
As Richard mentioned, NASA's covering up. Well, you know, the Russians, you know, it's hard to get stuff out of Russia too, but
well, and a lot of the research, if you start investigating online, the Medical College at Wisconsin, Dr. Whale in there, is funded by DARPA.
Wow.
So, you know.
What DARPA is?
Okay, DARPA Defense. What does it stand for?
Research Projects Agency.
Okay, Defense what's the
Advanced
A?
Research.
Advanced Research Projects Agency. Thank you. Thank you. So your defense and your offense, you know, it's the same coin out there. You know, like our Republican Party, our Democratic Party, it's the same body. You know, the best defense is a good offense. All these little catch things. And back with the research done by Nick Begich and his new book about mind control and about these technologies that you don't even know are being used on you. You're at a demonstration and you start to feel physically ill. Well, gosh, you know, just we should leave, you know, this should break up. And people don't realize that there is technology that is beaming at them, making them sick, making them overheated. Did any of you see the new articles about people being able to be made to feel as if they're on fire? There was just... Now that would be pretty discouraging for someone to continue in demonstration, although I guess we're not allowed to demonstrate anymore. If we want to if we want to demonstrate or protest, we have to be in a designated area that's 5 miles away and fenced in and away from any cameras. I think I'm going to turn this off. Get to see Sasha. Sasha's always good. So she's on here, yeah, but there's a lot of other pictures on there too.
Anyway, that was a year ago. She was diagnosed as being toast.
Yeah.
She was so unhappy when we left. She
Oh.
looked at us like, "Are you guys nuts?
Yeah.
You're leaving without me?" I mean, people come in, you know, tradesmen and construction people and people that don't know her at all. We play a game with them. We say, "How old do you think she is?" And they'll say, maybe 6
Wait,
months.
I'll show her a picture. Don't say.
Okay.
Don't say.
So we'll find Sasha here.
Thank you all for indulging me.
This is obviously a very informal forum. And, but it's important to realize that these modalities are a spectrum of life forms.
Yes.
The idea that you only treat humans, you only treat animals, you don't look at it as a continuum. That's why the horse doctor who tripped over light therapy had such an extraordinary set of insights that it could be applicable to people. And you're back to the political, you're back to the FDA, you're back to people setting up agencies to suppress technologies because Big Pharma wants to own you, lock, stock, and barrel. And as we get closer to 2012, the whole idea that we can, you know, regain control politically of our lives again is really important. And this is part of why I'm so proud of doing it. Can you make that whole screen?
No, you can.
I know your computer.
That's hard. You're going to use it. No, what I also like to point out when he makes the picture full screen.
No.
Double click on. You should have jumped up. I think one rotates it. Oh, that one? Okay. Now, how old would you guys guess her to be? Oh, wow. And look carefully at her muzzle. So, you know, just to get a guess of her age. Hmm?
It's not our best picture.
No, but anyhow, there's just a little bit of gray on the bottom part of her chin. She had gray on her muzzle, on the sides, but nobody's thrown out a year.
6?
She'll be 10 in August.
Wow.
Yeah. The light therapy, oh my God, a year ago. A year ago, yeah, when I was told she's in end-stage liver disease.
LED pad.
The same LED pad covered over on her liver, on her muzzle, which was challenging. I'd have to sit on the floor with her and read or watch, you know, television. But she had bleeding from her nostril, and there was an infection in the upper palate. And the end-stage liver diagnoser said, "Oh, well, we can't go in and do anything because, you know, she's too frail and she couldn't take any medication and we can't clean that up." It's like, I'll clean it up. Okay. So anyhow, no more bleeding. That's cleared, and her enzymes are normal for one function and only slightly doubled now, almost doubled, not quite doubled for the other. They had been 6 and 7 times the range. Everything else stabilized, and the big factor is cook for your pet. If you love them, cook for them. Simple, easy, basic. I will help anybody if you need help finding a diet, because idiot that I am, I had given her what I thought was great quality dog food. Paul Newman's organic dog food, which I later found out they licensed their name, Paul Newman, to a whole bunch of organic lines, and there's no quality control. And there was spoiled food, and this was at the same time when you had all those deaths from liver disease. Their livers were blown on dogs eating contaminated dog food. So, you know, putting 2 and 2 together, it seemed that that was the main insult. But she's doing great, and she runs, and she jumps and she does everything. And it's simple, you know, what you would do for yourself, what you should do for yourself with simple, basic foods. Once you start, it's so easy. People are convinced that this takes so much time. Doesn't.
Do you ever combine a light therapy with a sound therapy and do both together?
No, but that's very interesting. We're going to have some of Stephen Halpern's music when we start the panel tomorrow, the healing panel. But there's a lot, and there's, I think at the end of that article, I didn't want to bore you guys by just reading so much. They talk about the whole unification of our bodies and how we are part of this light and energy and sound. And we react. In Chinese medicine, you have the colors for each individual organ system. You have the sound for the organ system. You have the season. You have so many factors that tie in because we are multi-dimensional beings. I mean, it sounds strange to some people, but that is what we are. What you see is just a fraction of what you get. And the more I have learned about medicine and the body and how it functions and how our cells can communicate, it's very impressive, very, very dramatic. And you were asking about the research from Russia and from Germany and why things are covered up. We have a big industry, the pharmaceutical industry. And for those of you, well, I think I'm preaching to the choir here because, I mean, the tentacles of this industry are so embedded in all aspects of our society, from your seed crops that farmers have to buy, that Monsanto treats the seeds already with pesticides. You have to follow up using pesticides on your crops, and then when you grow your produce, you can't harvest the seeds because they're sterile. And from the cleaners in your homes, I mean, that's another biggie, not just for your pets, for yourselves. I mean, all these fumes that you walk across and you pollute your environment with, there are very safe options that are out there. Health food stores, I mean, it's so widespread and easily available now, from toilet cleaners to floor cleaners to laundry detergents to body toiletries to all kinds of products. There is no excuse, and the prices have come down because the demand has gone up. And the more of you that demand, the lower the prices will get. There's another area. Sasha has a thyroid condition, hypothyroidism, and I thought, well, isn't this interesting? I've heard from other people in the area where we were living that there are, in a small little community, there are about 10 other dogs. And I thought, I'm really onto something, that this will be an interesting little study that I can do. And I contacted a friend of mine who I'm blessed to have in my life. He's a phenomenal human being and one of the outstanding veterinary physicians. He's written many textbooks. His name is Larry Tilley, and he's in Santa Fe. He's just absolutely wonderful. And I put this to him, and I said, well, what would you suggest that I do to set up a study about hypothyroidism in dogs in this area? And he said, I can't really suggest anything because it's not in your area. It's nationwide. It's an epidemic. This is, our animals are like the canaries in the mine. They are showing us how polluted everything is. Look at the increase in cancers in our pets. I mean, and then look at where they are on the ground. They're walking across, your Mr. Clean on the floor. They're walking across the exterminator that came in and sprayed. They're walking across the lawn that's been sprayed. And you're taking your baby out there to go play in the grass. And you're poisoning yourselves. And a lot of these poisons don't get eliminated with Western medicine. There are ways to do it. And there are the Russian technologies and the German technologies. And the big pharmaceutical companies, It's a major problem, because how are we going to affect change in our government, in Congress, with our representatives, who contributes the most money to them? What do we do? You have a suggestion?
Actually, well, it's a question, like, for these things, these ideas that you have, do you have it on your website, like a recommendation list of like products to use for particular ailments, or just suggestions that you have as far as lifestyle changes or anything like that? Do you publish that at all anywhere?
I have some suggestions. A lot of people don't understand why I don't like to give basic for everybody, and that's because there is no basic for everybody. Beyond cleaning up your environment, I will update my site and include that information about how to have a healthy home for yourself, for your loved ones. Part of my questionnaire for a consultation with a patient, and I consult with patients nationwide. It's a long, detailed questionnaire. I need to know, what hobbies do you have? What hobbies do your other family members or the other people that share your home have? Where do you work? Is your home built on landfill? What kind of water are you drinking? How new is the home? Did you put in new carpets, new drapes? What kind of paint, wallpaper? There are so many things in our environment that continuously assail us. So that's basic, and that's a good recommendation, and I will do that, and I thank you for that. But to recommend basic supplements, there are caveats. If you have liver disease, something like beta-carotene could be harmful because it stresses the liver. The liver has to convert that to vitamin A. So to make a general recommendation, it's hard when it comes to supplements, to herbs. There are so many different things that everyone has heard about. Echinacea is a wonderful immune support, except for someone that has hay fever or allergies. You know, they get almost deathly ill from that, from drinking tea, from taking a capsule. You have to know. You know, and you can start doing your research, and what you learn is a help. On my webpage, on the main page, I have links where you can find other practitioners. There are different agencies. If you want to work with medical doctors, you have the Academy, the College for Advancement in Medicine, ACAM, is up there. You have orthomed.org for physicians from the good old 50s. Oh, they're changing. I didn't know. Oh. And then you have situations where there are mold problems, which we went through, and you have people that don't want to remediate the mold properly. So a little tip from Len Horowitz, video camera there. When people are accountable, they don't like it. And they will do their job right. They will follow their protocols to the T and go through all the steps. Had we not videotaped the crew that came in to clean up a mold-contaminated bathroom, they had initially said, well, we can just do a real quick job on this. You know, it's real simple. We don't have to, you know, spend a lot of time. But we videotaped what he was saying as he examined and pointed out the mold, and they brought in the proper team. They had the exhaust from the room when they were cleaning to go outside, and then we had them come and measure the air quality in the house, different parts of the house, so that we were sure that the problem was resolved. Had we not done that, they might have tried, and I might not have such a good position to enforce their proper follow-through of what their job is. Back to the pharmaceutical companies. I have a lot of information on my website about Codex. I've lectured, I've been on Coast to Coast AM talking about Codex. That was my big wake-up about the media 10 years ago, coming across the research of John Hamill and his work and his frustration trying to wake up the media. And well, that can't be too difficult. And I called all the news stations, and I called television shows, and I sent letters, and I was told, that's really important information. We'll get back to you. You know, I called the NNFA, the parent companies for Wild Oats and Whole Foods, and they told me, oh, this is a non-issue. You don't have to worry about it. You're not going to lose access to supplements. They'll always be there. But back to Germany, did you know it's illegal now in Germany to have vitamin C over a certain milligram amount? I think it's over 200 milligrams. Have to get it by prescription. And you know what that does to the price? It can be 10 times the price. You have essential fatty acids that are now available by prescription. The same things that you can get in the health food store where you would take 3 pills, you now only need 2 pills and get it by prescription, and you can have the pleasure of paying 10 times the price. What the grand plan here to do is to replace all of these natural substances, and instead of the natural ones that are bioavailable, you know, that will interact and have that light exchange with your body, trigger those responses, all those things that we want for healthy cellular function, you will have chemicals that your body can't use, or if it has any benefit, it's a fraction of what you would have from the natural products. So, from a business point of view, what are you going to do? You're going to have low-dose products. You're going to have to buy more to get any kind of effect. And then on the ugly side of things, that makes you sound a bit like a nut job. If you have a weakened, sickened population, they're going to be a lot easier to do whatever it is you want them to do. And you know, there are master plans. I'm sure many of us heard about the difference in Russia, that they had their 5-year plan when they wanted goals to be established, and a 10-year plan, and everything was structured to move along. Well, they weren't the only ones that had these long-range plans, and Codex Alimentarius started in 1962 with the World Health Organization. They claimed that they were going to improve the quality of foods for all of us and raise the standards worldwide. Well, in order for many of these poorer countries that have become part of the other tentacled organism of the European Union, for these poorer countries to be able to participate and improve, the standards had to be lowered instead of raised. And it's a very ugly picture. And for those who believe that our country is sovereign and we can, you know, easily make these changes if we just tell our politicians, who are funded by the pharmaceutical companies, the rights to make those changes were signed away when we joined the World Trade Organization. And then we have NAFTA and we have CAFTA. And these are the nails in the coffin that cement the range of choice. But we still can do something. Everyone can, if we get the sheer force of a people that have finally been disgusted and, you know, they're mad as hell and won't take it anymore. I mean, you have to think in your mind that scene from Network. You know, everyone screaming out their window, I'm mad as hell and I won't take it anymore. That's what you have to do, you know, and you've got email and phone calls. There are many tools at your disposal. And if enough of us do it, there are a lot of people in this country, then we can make a change. You know, if enough of you are tired of seeing your loved ones suffer or die needlessly, we can have change. You know, it's up to all of you. So, I want to take some more questions.
I don't mean to hog all the questions.
No. Please, I'll take all your questions.
I'm very interested in different devices that can also register frequencies in your energy field and your etheric field to tell that you have a disease coming before it manifests. Have you done any work with those?
I haven't done work with technology that will manifest or show technical information about changes in your field. We had Kirlian photography. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Sheila, what other measuring techniques are there?
One that Nick is exploring that's coming out from Finland from Dr. Anu Michaela. And it's almost like Star Trek, where you run this little
scanner,
this down, and it will tell you where what part of your body is missing or has a hole in it or where it needs to be adjusted. So there is new technology that's coming from Finland, from Dr. Anu Michaela, that will be available pretty soon. I know they're testing it in Finland and they're getting great results. So.
Do you know what they're measuring?
I don't know. You could ask Nick. He'll know.
I know a little bit about that. Is that I guess every organ system has a frequency that it's working best. So if that organ is resonating at a lower frequency, it's basically can tell and pick up and say, okay, your liver system is at risk. You know, you need to bring it up and bring the frequencies up. As far as electromagnetic, yes. Yeah. So that's my understanding. I know there's some of the SCIO machines that are out there right now doing that, but I don't know them yet. So that's where. Yeah. Well, there are some here in the U.S., but I don't know a practitioner who's used one that I'd like to get some feedback from.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I don't know. I've read of different technology, but I don't have the data and the follow-up to see, you know, does it correlate? And when you have your starting point, what was the progression, you know, of a person's condition based on treatment from that information? So, yeah, the hard data is important, but there's a lot of great stuff, and I will look into that more. Yes?
How long did you use that light therapy on your dog?
I use the light therapy on my dog. Gosh, I still use it on her, but not every day.
To the point where it relieves.
Well, that wasn't the only thing I did. I also treated her with nutritional supplements, with homeopathic supplements, and the dietary change was major. If she was younger, I tried putting her on a raw food diet, and they give raw turkey necks, and raw bones are supposed to be safe, but I can't wrap my mind around that. I'm always worried about splinters. I mean, animals have lived thousands and thousands of years eating bones, but I'm just worried about the possibility of splinters, which the raw food people claim doesn't exist when the bones are raw. But what you give with raw food, raw vegetables, you have to find which ones are harmful for dogs. You don't ever give carrots. I mean, not carrots. You don't ever give nightshade family plants because they can be neurotoxins to dog. So that's peppers and tomatoes. Grapes and raisins can damage their kidneys. Chocolate is a major, major poison. Nicotine is a major poison. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I have to put back up on my website. That the pet information I'll put up there again. But the light therapy machine is the most effective if you can use it 3 times a day, half hour each time, possibly even an hour. When I was, well, to finish with her, yes, for a course of several months, I used the machine on her. I used it over her nose and mouth area to deal with that infection that was in her upper palate, and that cleared up the bleeding from her nostril. What was it, a month? A few weeks? Yeah, it was just dramatic. Yeah. So, and the studies for dental work, someone who had 4 wisdom teeth extracted, I got the research together about homeopathic injectables so that the dentist would be comfortable using this. He injected trow meal into the areas where the wisdom teeth were removed, and trow meal is a liquid homeopathic remedy that's for trauma. It is for bruising, soreness, achiness, and as a homeopathic, it works on stimulating your cellular function so your body kicks in and repairs. You know, you're not beating yourself down with a drug that's going to suppress your symptoms. You are bringing up the immune system so that it treats the problem and heals it. So this patient used the light machine, also used ice, had the injectables from the dentist, back to the dentist the next day to show him the progress, and the dentist said, "I'm using this in my practice now. That's amazing. There's no swelling." So that's the day after. So, yeah, there's exciting stuff. Are we timed out? Oh, I didn't know what. Oh, okay. What other questions?
Well, yeah, just one other thing. Are you going to put like these experiences that you've had on your website, just kind of like with the dental experience, just I guess as, to give us an idea so we can do our own research.
Sure.
To follow up on that, because it'd be good to kind of just, rather than giving specific recommendations, have a guide, something that's worked for you and your personal experience, so then we can go do our own research, because ultimately it's our choice on what we want to do. But I think having some type of experience that you've seen yourself that works, it puts us in the right direction to find something that'll work.
Okay, sure. I'm happy to include that. The thing is, there's something really for everything. You have to also keep in mind, in this country, it is against the law to treat cancer by any means other than surgery, chemotherapy, or radiation. And that's the law. You know, doctors that make other recommendations can get in serious trouble. You can do immune support, you can do quality of life, but the only ones that can treat cancerous condition are MD oncologists, or your MDs, and they're limited to those 3 modalities. You want more anecdotal stories?
Well, just anything that you've come across that's been like an experience that you've had, not necessarily that you're giving any treatment or anything like that, but just something that you've known that it has worked in the past, because you can report it.
John, Michael's friend.
Oh, okay. With homeopathy. 16-year-old boy in New Mexico went snowboarding, fractured his wrist, and I got called when they were at the emergency room and said, okay, make sure you come over so I can give you a formula and you start taking it. Because I was concerned at 16 the growth plates are enclosed and that he'd have one arm longer than the other if the trauma would stop the growth in that arm. So I made up a basic formula, homeopathic formula, and I didn't bring the little pills. They're little tiny pills that I make up a formula. I have my own pharmacy, and if it's a single remedy or I'll combine, I try to keep it as simple as possible. There are some companies that throw in the whole kitchen sink. So to make a long story short, he had his x-rays taken, and 8 days later they x-rayed him again and couldn't find where the break was. It was a fracture. It wasn't a break, but they had no evidence of it. And he's fine. He healed perfectly. The other example, liver cancer. Family member was with liver cancer. We got him on a raw diet of about 60%, exercise regularly, intravenous vitamin C therapy, which is, I can't say enough for vitamin C. If there is so much that can be accomplished with clearing the body. It's an anti-inflammatory. It will treat pain. It will build up your immune system. It's an so this patient had intravenous vitamin C therapy, also some chelation therapy for when there's liver disease. There are toxins that build up in the liver. A lot of it's usually heavy metal toxins, so you want to clear that out of the system. And there's a therapy called radiofrequency ablation therapy. I don't know what's going to be there. And radiofrequency ablation therapy is, the example is you have a tube, and out of the tube comes wired things like an umbrella, and those wires are heated by radiofrequency. They are placed over a tumor, they kill the proteins in the tumor, and then the body absorbs it and breaks it down. So this patient had the tumors in the liver that were treated on 2 separate occasions. There was one other tiny tumor that was higher up close to the diaphragm. They did a slightly different procedure, which, by the way, the patient went home the same day. It's Band-Aid therapy. Band-Aid healing. And throughout the whole course of this, no one could believe that this patient had liver cancer. They said, my God, you look better than us. Your energy level, everything you're doing, the exercise, everything. It's incredible. And fortunately, I came back to New Mexico, and the transplant team, kind of like the government, the fear-mongers, well, if there's a liver that's available now, you better take it because you're going to die. Otherwise, if it comes back, we might not get a liver for you, and you'll have too many tumors, and you won't be a candidate anymore. And fortunately, this patient had such an incredibly strong, solid base thing that he was doing. When he did have the transplant, he came through it so well. I think he left the hospital in 6 days or something. It was amazing. And he's doing great. There's, fortunately, there are other options. If any of you have friends that are considering transplants, instead of using the suppressive cortisone therapies, the therapies, there's something called Xenopac, or there are others more specific for the particular organ that are not going to be suppressing the healing, and you have these long hospital stays, because how can the body heal when you're suppressing it at the same time? So that contributed, and now unfortunately there's nothing I can do because my focus is immune support and building up the immune system, and if you do that, then the patient rejects the liver. But on the good side, the research now is to the point where there will be, I'd say in the next few years, a lot of advances that you'll see in stem cell therapy, in growing your own organs, so you're not going to have to worry about that rejection. Yeah. Well, I'm just giving some examples. So, but the thing is, you have to keep pushing.
Okay.
What other questions? I don't know.
Great picture.
It's a lot. Yeah, there's really cute animal pictures, but I just don't know what else is going to come up. Yes?
This might or might not be a little bit off of what exactly you're saying, but I've heard of the Bovis scale. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, the life energy scale. Some scientists.
ORAC or?
His name was something Bovis. I don't remember, but maybe some sort of hoax. I don't know, but it worked on my
Bovis.
father.
How was it measured?
They said life energy, or it was something along those lines, to where if it's above a certain number, it's life supporting. It's below. It's.
What's the detector? What's the modality? What do they measure?
That's what I couldn't get out of this company.
That's the key.
Right, but they had a product, a little pain or a pain eliminator, and it was like $10. So I said, okay, I'm going to try it. What the heck? And my dad put it on his golf elbow. That he's been to the doctor and tried all different kinds of stuff, and it went away from that $10 thing.
Is it a patch?
It's kind of like a patch, but it's not like permanent, like it sticks or anything. And it kind of reminded me of the life.
The LifeWave patches, because I've used those for pain, and on placing the LifeWave patches, I'm wearing them. They're great energy boosts. I mean, they really are.
Yeah.
You can find the link from my website if you want to try it. Now they finally have free samples, and this company has driven me out of my mind, because as a physician, you get so many free samples. You get literature so that you can share this with your patients. They give away nothing. They finally have free samples, but with the proper pain placement, you can treat pain. And these are small little patches. And you can go around the expense of LifeWave patches by taping them in paper, with paper tape, over the body. You don't have to peel it off. It breaks down with exposure to body heat. So how you get around paying more money for it, use it for a short amount of time. You know, wear it for an hour, wear it, you know, always start slow and try it for an hour the first time and see how you feel. Drink a lot of water, and there are certain products like Briz water or Okalani water that you add to your water that make the water wetter so that everything, your supplements are taken up much more efficiently. Your body utilizes everything better because of the change in the water that you're drinking. So you can stretch these out just like with homeopathics. You don't need the recommended amounts. The small amounts are fine. And place it, if you don't know the points, you can place it over an area where there's pain. And, you know, and it works. And it works, but it's just a horrible multi-level marketing company.
Did you scalp elbow come back?
Not so far. And it's,
wow.
It's been about, he did it in the summer, and it hasn't come back
A
yet.
year? No.
Well, you know, about 8 months, maybe, something like that. And yeah, he was just
See,
like
this is
a
where Robin and I have interesting differences on modalities. It's not really differences, it's that she's just gotten into that aspect of it. And I've been looking at the physics for a long time. David Wilcock, who of course you probably know or know of, and I are in agreement that this is probably another example of torsion physics. That all the literature that she has where they're looking to how it works, because they're coming at it from 20th century mainstream physics, they haven't got to the interesting part yet, which is coming out of the former Soviet Union, having to do with what we call torsion physics, which has to do with spin at the molecular level. And the way the patches work and the way the LED stuff works, in other words, I keep looking for the unifying glue, you know, where some guys look at the elephant, you know, their eyes closed and they see the, or they feel the trunk and the others feel the legs, or the, you know, I'm looking for the overall explanation that makes all these data points fit into a coherent picture. And what David and I are kind of in agreement on, again out of work of the Soviet Union, is that this probably ultimately comes down to torsion physics, which is a radiation. In fact, I was thinking when Robin was saying that the FDA prohibits anything but radiation for cancer modalities, the loophole in the law could be if you can prove that this is radiation, then you can hoist them by their own petard, which means you can use an alternative therapy, but it fits into the letter of the law, and of course the bureaucrats have to follow the letter of the law. So I'm going to look at what the law says, because if this is torsion radiation, which I'm going to talk about a bit tonight, but a lot on Monday night, then this would be the unifying answer as to how it works, because what it's doing is it's resonating with your own torsion field, and that is a regenerative process. Life itself is a torsion experience in 3D from higher dimensions. And so I'm looking to where we combine our two, on the surface, disparate fields into a common field. You have any last words, Robin?
Gosh, let me see. Yes, that's very gracious of you. Thank you. There was something I was thinking of adding when you were saying that about the torsion fields, but I'm out of time. So you. Yes, the website is healthfreedomrights.com. Right now there is a lot of information there if you go through the pages about Codex, contact information for different political representatives. There's some contacts and research to find healthcare practitioners. Contact me. I work with patients nationwide, and you're welcome to take my card, ask me any questions, and if you have suggestions, write to me at my website. I want to speak with you for your friends, and I want to hear back from you how you are, and I'd love to find out more about the research you've done. So I thank you all for being here.